Blood dripped from Raxel's claws as his opponent collapsed onto the arena floor. The crowd roared with approval, thousands of voices from dozens of different species creating a sound like thunder. Raxel raised his arms high, his scaled body gleaming under the bright lights of the Crimson Colosseum. Another victory, another fighter broken beneath his strength. The champion remains undefeated. The announcer's voice echoed through the massive space. 12 cycles of dominance. Is there no warrior in the galaxy who can challenge the mighty? Raxel? The Torgathi warrior walked toward the exit tunnel, his heavy footsteps echoing on the metal floor. He barely felt tired. The match had lasted less than 3 minutes. Every opponent fell the same way eventually. They came with strength, with speed, with weapons and tricks. Nothing mattered. Raxel was simply better. His species had evolved for war. Every part of his body served combat. His scales deflected most attacks. His regeneration healed wounds in minutes. His reflexes surpassed every species he had fought. In the preparation chamber below the arena, Raxel cleaned his claws and accepted water from an attendant. Other fighters watched him from a distance, some with respect, some with fear, all with the understanding that he stood at the top of the galactic hierarchy, fighting determined worth in this part of space. The tournament proved which species deserved power and which needed to follow. High Arbiter Cell entered the chamber, his thin frame moving with bureaucratic precision. The official wore elaborate robes marking his position as tournament overseer. He carried a data pad and wore an expression that suggested news. Champion. Raxel, I bring information about next cycle's tournament bracket, Cell said, his voice formal and clipped. More challengers to crush? Raxel asked, not bothering to look up from his cleaning. Yes, though one entry is unusual. A newly discovered species has registered for the tournament. That got Raxel's attention. New species were rare. The galaxy had been explored thoroughly. Most civilizations already knew their place in the hierarchy. What species? They call themselves humans, from a planet named Earth in a remote sector. Recently achieved faster-than-light travel and found our beacon signals. Are they warriors? Cell manipulated his datapad, pulling up information. According to preliminary scans, no. They appear quite fragile, actually. Soft skin, no natural weapons, no armor plating or scales. Average strength below most species. Their planet has moderate gravity and temperature. Nothing extreme. Raxel snorted, a sound like rocks grinding together. Then why enter the tournament? Do they not understand what happens here? Apparently they requested entry specifically. Their representative insisted they wanted to test themselves against galactic standards. Cell tilted his head, confused by the concept. Perhaps it is ceremonial for them. Some species have strange customs about honor and sacrifice. When do they arrive? Their ship docks tomorrow. The fighter's name is Beth Reed, female of their species, though I am uncertain if that designation matters for humans. Other fighters in the chamber had gathered closer, listening to the conversation. News of fresh opponents always drew interest. A Horgesh warrior, massive and covered in thick hide, laughed deeply. Soft skin, no weapons. This will be entertainment, not combat, the Horgesh said. Perhaps I will face this human first, a quick victory to warm up. Raxel said nothing but filed the information away. He had learned long ago not to completely dismiss any opponent. Overconfidence created openings. Still, the description suggested humans would not last long in serious combat. The galaxy was harsh. Species without strength fell away quickly. The next day, Raxel found himself in the observation gallery above the docking bays. Curiosity had drawn him there, though he would not admit it openly. He wanted to see these humans before they entered his arena. The human ship was small and unremarkable, functional design without the aggressive aesthetics most warrior species preferred. When the airlock opened, a single figure emerged. Beth Reed stood perhaps 6 feet tall, smaller than Raxel by a significant margin. She wore simple clothing that showed her frame, muscular but not impressively so compared to other species. Her skin was indeed soft-looking, a medium brown tone without any visible armor. Her hair was pulled back tightly. She carried no weapons except a small bag over one shoulder. What struck Raxel most were her eyes. They moved constantly, taking in every detail of the docking bay, calculating, measuring. The eyes of a predator, though her body seemed to contradict that impression. She met with Arbiter Cell briefly, completing registration procedures. Raxel could not hear their conversation from his position, but watched her body language. Relaxed but ready, confident without arrogance. She moved efficiently, no wasted motion. "So that is a human," another fighter said beside Raxel. "Disappointing. I expected something more after their bold entry request." "Perhaps their species is foolish," another replied, "or perhaps they do not understand what real combat means." Raxel continued watching as Beth Reed was led toward the fighter quarters. She walked like someone comfortable in her body, balanced and aware. It reminded him of how experienced hunters moved. But humans were not evolved for hunting, according to the data. They came from a moderate world without significant dangers. Later that evening, the tournament brackets were posted. Beth Reed would fight in 3 days against Kral, a mid-level Horgesh warrior. The betting pools opened immediately, and the odds were heavily against the human. 50-1. Most spectators assumed the match would last less than a minute. Raxel studied the bracket from his private quarters. He would not face the human unless she somehow advanced through multiple rounds, which seemed impossible. Still, something about her presence bothered him. A feeling without clear source. He pulled up the limited data available on Earth and humans. The planet was cataloged as unremarkable. Humans had developed technology relatively quickly, but showed no exceptional physical traits. They waged wars among themselves, but nothing on the scale of true warrior species. Their combat history seemed primitive, using tools and weapons because their bodies lacked natural offensive capabilities. Everything suggested they were weak, soft, unsuited for the tournament. Yet something in Beth Reed's eyes contradicted all the data. Raxel decided he would watch her first match carefully, not because he worried about facing her eventually. That was absurd. But because he was curious how quickly a human would break when confronted with real galactic combat, whether they would show courage or fold immediately under pressure. 3 days would answer his questions. The champion settled into his meditation routine, preparing for his own upcoming matches. The human was a distraction, nothing more. After her inevitable defeat, the tournament would continue as it always had. The strong would triumph. The weak would learn their place. That was the way of things. That had always been the way of things. Raxel closed his eyes and focused on his breathing, pushing thoughts of Earth and humans from his mind. They did not matter. Soon they would be forgotten. Just another failed species that overestimated their abilities. Soon. The preparation chamber smelled like fear and antiseptic. Beth Reed sat alone on a metal bench, wrapping her hands with cloth strips she had brought from Earth. Other fighters gave her space. Whether from courtesy or dismissal, she could not tell. Probably dismissal. She had seen how they looked at her, like she was a joke, a mistake, something that would break quickly and be forgotten. Good. Let them think that. Her translator implant buzzed slightly as it adjusted to new languages in the area. Since arriving at the Crimson Coliseum, she had heard at least 20 different species talking. Most conversations were about bets. Nobody was betting on her except as a joke. The odds were 50-1 against her surviving 5 minutes with Kral. A medical technician approached, scanning her with a device that beeped and hummed. The technician was short and had 4 arms, which made the examination quick and efficient. "Your vital signs are stable," the technician said in translated speech. "But I must warn you, human, your body structure is not suitable for tournament combat. Your skin has no protective layer. Your bones are thin compared to most species. I have medication that can dull pain if you wish." "I'm good," Beth said, finishing her hand wraps. "Thanks, though." The technician made a sound that might have been concern or confusion, then moved away to check other fighters. Beth stood and rolled her shoulders, working through her pre-fight routine. Stretch the legs, Loosen the hips. Keep the breathing steady. Same as always, whether she was in a gym in California or on an alien space station millions of miles from home. She had watched footage of Kraal's previous fights. Horgesh fighters relied on overwhelming force. They were big, strong, and durable. Kraal stood about 8 feet tall and probably weighed 500 pounds. He had thick hide that covered his body like armor. His fighting style was simple: charge forward and overpower opponents with strength. Simple was good. Simple could be countered. The announcement system chimed, and the technician gestured toward the tunnel leading to the arena. Beth walked forward, her bare feet quiet on the cold floor. She could hear the crowd now, thousands of voices creating a constant noise like ocean waves. The arena opened before her like a mouth. The floor was metal with slight texture for grip. Bright lights came from above, making it hard to see the audience clearly. The space was huge, circular, with walls about 20 feet high. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, just 2 fighters and open space. Across the arena, Kraal emerged from the opposite tunnel. He looked even bigger in person, his massive body moving with surprising speed. His hide was brown and thick, scarred from previous battles. He wore minimal equipment, just straps across his chest holding his identification tags. Arbiter Cell stood in a protected booth above the arena floor. His voice came through speakers placed around the space. Combatants, you know the rules. Victory by submission, incapacitation, or withdrawal. Lethal force is permitted but discouraged. The match begins when I signal. Honor to the strong. Beth settled into her stance, weight on the balls of her feet, hands up, but relaxed. Across from her, Kraal dropped into a ready position that looked like a charging bull about to run. The signal sounded, a sharp tone that cut through the crowd noise. Kraal charged immediately, exactly as Beth expected. He came straight at her, using his size and strength to intimidate. Most opponents probably froze when facing that charge. Beth moved left, angling away from his path. Kraal adjusted quickly, showing good reflexes for his size. His massive hand reached for her, trying to grab and crush. Beth ducked under the grab and stepped inside his reach, too close for him to use his full strength. She struck twice, fast and precise, hitting the side of his knee joint. Not hard enough to damage through his thick hide, but enough to send a message. I'm faster than you. Kraal swung a backhand that would have broken her ribs if it connected. Beth was already moving away, creating distance. The crowd made various sounds, some surprised that she had not been caught immediately. Stand and fight! Kraal shouted, his voice deep and angry. He charged again, this time with both arms spread wide to prevent her escape. Beth waited until the last possible moment, then dropped low and rolled to the side. Kraal's momentum carried him forward, and she used that moment to strike at his ankle. Same technique as before. Testing his weak points, finding where the armor was thinnest. This continued for 2 minutes. Kraal charging, Beth evading and countering. She did not try to hurt him seriously yet, just stayed away from his power while landing small, calculated strikes. Kraal was getting frustrated. She could see it in how he moved, more aggressive and less controlled. Frustration created mistakes. Kraal changed tactics, trying to corner her against the arena wall. Smart move, removing her mobility advantage. Beth let him think it was working, moving toward the wall as if she had no choice. When he committed to a final charge, she used the wall itself as a tool, pushing off it to launch herself at an angle Kraal did not expect. She landed on his back, wrapping her legs around his thick waist and her arm around his neck. Not a blood choke. His anatomy was wrong for that, but a pressure point technique targeting the nerve clusters she had identified during her study of Horgesh physiology. Kraal roared and reached back, trying to grab her. His strength was incredible. If he caught her, the fight would end immediately. Beth held on, adjusting her position as he moved, staying in the blind spot behind his head, where his arms could not reach effectively. She pressed harder on the nerve points, using her full body weight and leverage. Kraal stumbled, his movements becoming less coordinated. The crowd had gone quieter, surprised that the match had not ended quickly. Yield, Beth said quietly, not expecting Kraal to hear her over his own breathing and the crowd noise. But he did hear, and his pride would not allow it. He threw himself backward, trying to crush her against the arena floor. Beth saw it coming and released her hold, rolling away as Kral's massive body slammed down where she had been a moment before. Both fighters rose to their feet. Kral was breathing hard now, tired from his efforts. Beth's breathing was controlled, steady, endurance training, one of humanity's few advantages. Kral charged again, but slower this time, more cautious. Beth changed her approach, moving forward to meet him instead of evading. This surprised him, and his timing was wrong. Beth slipped past his guard and jumped, using his own body as a platform to gain height. She wrapped her legs around his arm and twisted, applying a joint lock that forced his elbow to bend at an angle it was not designed to move. Kral screamed in pain and dropped to one knee. Beth maintained the lock, increasing pressure steadily. "Yield," she said again, louder this time. "Never." Kral tried to power through it, using his other arm to reach for her. Beth adjusted her grip and increased the pressure past the safe point. Something in Kral's elbow joint popped, and he screamed again. "Yield or I dislocate it completely," Beth said, her voice calm and matter-of-fact. Kral stopped struggling. The pain was too much. His body shook with the effort of holding still. "I yield," he finally said, the words barely audible. Beth released the lock immediately and stepped away. Kral collapsed fully to the floor, holding his damaged arm. Medical technicians rushed into the arena with equipment. Arbiter Cell's voice came through the speakers, sounding confused and uncertain. "Victory to Beth Reed of Earth by submission." The crowd made various noises. Some cheered, many sounded shocked. Beth walked back toward the exit tunnel, her heart rate finally increasing now that the fight was over. Adrenaline dump, her old coach would have called it. In the observation area above the arena, Raxel watched the human fighter disappear into the tunnel. His expression was thoughtful. The match had not gone how anyone expected. Kral was not weak. He had won many fights. Yet the human had defeated him using techniques Raxel had never seen before. Speed over strength, precision over power, and something else. Something in how she moved and thought during combat. Like every action was calculated. Like she was solving a puzzle rather than fighting a battle. The champion decided he needed to watch more carefully. This human was not what the data suggested. There was something different about her species. Something the galaxy had not encountered before. Something that made his warrior instincts whisper a warning he did not yet understand. Research stations throughout the Crimson Coliseum worked through the night cycle analyzing data. Scientists and scholars from multiple species gathered around display screens, studying footage of Beth Reed's victory over Kral. The match had created questions that needed answers. How had such a physically inferior species defeated a proven warrior? Dr. Lim, a human xenobiologist who had arrived with the second wave of Earth representatives, stood before a mixed audience of galactic researchers. She had been asked to give a presentation about human evolution and capabilities. The room was packed with curious aliens. "Thank you for inviting me to speak," Lim began, adjusting her translator device. "I understand Beth Reed's victory has created confusion. I hope to provide context that will help explain what you witnessed." A Torgathi scientist raised a clawed hand. "Your species appears weak by all standard measurements. How did your fighter defeat Kral through physical means alone?" Lim smiled slightly. "That is the wrong question. You should ask why you assume physical strength is the primary factor in combat effectiveness." She pulled up a holographic display showing Earth from space. "My planet has a classification you may not have encountered before. We call it a death world. Earth evolved life through constant, brutal competition. Our gravity is higher than 70% of inhabited worlds. Our weather systems are violent and unpredictable. Our ecosystem contains millions of species all competing for survival." The display changed, showing various Earth creatures. Lions hunting, wolves pack hunting, crocodiles ambushing prey, bears fighting, snakes striking. "Humans are not the strongest species on Earth," Lim continued. "We are not the fastest or the best armed. Yet we survived and eventually dominated our planet. How? Through adaptability, endurance, and intelligence." She pulled up anatomical comparisons between humans and other species present at the tournament. "Look at our skeletal structure. Yes, our bones are lighter than yours, but that makes us more energy efficient. Look at our muscle composition. We have a balance between fast twitch and slow twitch fibers that allows both explosive movement and sustained effort. Look at our cooling system. We sweat, which allows us to regulate temperature better than most species. We can run for hours in heat that would kill other predators. A scholar from a reptilian species spoke up. But Beth Reed did not defeat Kral through endurance. The match lasted less than 5 minutes. True, Lim agreed. She used technique. Earth developed thousands of fighting systems over our history. We have studied combat for thousands of years, not as ritual but as survival. Beth Reed trained in multiple martial arts forms. She understands leverage, momentum, weak points in anatomy, and psychological tactics. She played footage of the match, slowing it down. Watch here. She does not try to match Kral's strength. She redirects it, uses it against him. Every movement serves multiple purposes. She is learning his patterns while defending, testing his reactions, finding weaknesses. This seems dishonorable, one warrior species representative said. True combat should be strength against strength. Lim turned to face the speaker directly. Honor is a luxury of the strong. Humans evolved as both predator and prey. We could not afford honor when facing creatures stronger than us. We survived through cleverness and refusal to quit. That became part of our nature. The presentation continued for another hour, covering human evolutionary history, hunting strategies, warfare development, and psychological characteristics. The galactic researchers listened with growing understanding and discomfort. Earth had produced a species optimized not for dominance but for survival at any cost. Meanwhile, in the fighter quarters, Beth Reed was not alone anymore. 2 other humans had arrived at the Coliseum. David Park, a former wrestler with engineering background, and Aisha Okoye, who had boxing experience and tactical military training. They sat together in the common area, speaking Earth English without translators. The other fighters are avoiding us now, David said, looking around the mostly empty room. Before your fight, they treated us like jokes. Now they act like we are diseased. Fear, Aisha said simply. Beth broke their understanding of how combat works. Now they don't know what to expect from any human. Beth was reviewing footage of her next opponent, a species called the Vexri, who specialized in speed and multiple limb attacks. Good. Fear creates hesitation. Hesitation creates openings. Have you heard the rumors? David asked. Apparently some of the veteran fighters are requesting data on Earth. They want to study our fighting history. Let them study, Beth said. Understanding something in theory is different from facing it in practice. How are your brackets looking? David pulled up his match schedule. I fight tomorrow against a Selkath, aquatic species, strong in water but slower on land. The arena will be half flooded. Should be interesting. Use your wrestling base, Beth advised. Get them on the ground, control their breathing. They will not expect grappling from a human. Aisha had won her first match earlier that day, defeating an opponent through relentless pressure and precise striking. Her next fight was in 3 days against a larger species known for defensive fighting. I have been thinking, she said slowly. We need to be careful about revealing too much too quickly. Every match teaches them about human capabilities. Agreed, Beth said. But we also cannot hold back too much. This tournament determines how the galaxy views Earth. We need to prove we belong here. Across the Coliseum, in private chambers reserved for champions, Raxel reviewed fight footage obsessively. He had watched Beth Reed's match dozens of times. He had also accessed the limited database information about Earth and studied human history files. What he found disturbed him deeply. Humans did not fight like any species he knew. They did not rely on natural advantages. They adapted constantly. Their entire civilization was built on overcoming limitations through tool use, cooperation, and creative problem-solving. They had conquered their planet not through evolution of superior bodies, but through evolution of superior minds. Their warfare history was particularly troubling. Humans fought each other constantly, developing increasingly sophisticated strategies and weapons. They studied combat as science. They practiced it as art. They refined it through thousands of years of conflict. Raxel pulled up footage of human martial arts demonstrations. Boxing, wrestling, judo, karate, muay thai, jiu-jitsu, and dozens more. Each system approached combat from a different philosophical angle. Each solved different problems. And humans learned multiple systems, combining them freely. The Torgathi warrior had been trained in one fighting method, perfected over generations. It had served him well. but it was rigid, predictable. If an opponent understood the patterns, they could counter them. Humans seemed to have no single pattern. They adapted based on the situation. A chime sounded, indicating a visitor at his door. Raxel opened it to find High Arbiter Cell looking troubled. "Champion, we must discuss the human situation," Cell said without greeting. "Enter." Cell moved into the chamber and stood formally. The humans are advancing through the tournament brackets faster than anticipated. Beth Reed, David Park, and Aisha Okoye have won all their matches. Other fighters are beginning to refuse matches against humans, claiming they need more time to prepare. "Cowardice," Raxel said flatly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps wisdom. The humans fight in ways we have not encountered before. Our traditional training methods do not prepare fighters for their tactics." Cell paused, choosing his words carefully. "Some council members are suggesting we should restrict human participation. Claim their techniques violate the spirit of honorable combat." "What techniques specifically?" Raxel asked. "They use no weapons. They do not fight with dishonor. They simply win." "Exactly. They win too effectively against species that should dominate them physically. It unsettles the natural order." Raxel was quiet for a moment, thinking. There is no natural order, Arbiter. There is only strength and weakness. The humans prove they have strength, just not the kind we are accustomed to measuring. You defend them, I state facts. If our fighters cannot defeat humans, that is our weakness, not human cheating. Raxel closed the footage displays. "I will face the human eventually if she continues to advance. Then we will see the truth of her abilities." Cell looked uncomfortable. The betting pools have shifted dramatically. Odds on Beth Reed have dropped from 50-1 to 8-1. If she reaches you, the financial implications alone will be significant. Money does not interest me. Combat does. These humans have shown me something new. I want to understand it. I want to test myself against it. Raxel turned to face Cell directly. "Tell the council not to interfere. Let the tournament proceed naturally. If humans prove superior, they earn their place. If they fail, they learn their limits. That is the purpose of this arena." Galactic Council chambers rarely held emergency sessions about sporting events. But the human situation had escalated beyond simple tournament concerns. Ambassador Feliran of the Torgathi delegation stood before the assembled representatives, his expression grave and troubled. "We must address what these humans represent," Feliran began, his voice carrying through the translation systems. "They have won 17 matches collectively with only 2 losses. Their winning percentage exceeds that of established warrior species. This is not natural." "Natural?" Dr. Lim sat in the guest section, invited to provide scientific context. "Define natural, Ambassador. My species evolved naturally on our planet, just as yours did on yours." "Your planet is the issue," another council member interjected, a tall being from a crystalline species. "We have analyzed the data you provided. Earth is classified as a Class 9 death world. Life should barely exist there, yet it thrives. The evolutionary pressures must have been extreme." Lim nodded slowly. "Earth is harsh, yes. Our gravity is 0.98 standard. Our temperature ranges from -89 to +56 degrees Celsius. We have violent weather patterns, tectonic activity, periodic extinction events from asteroid impacts, and an ecosystem where everything is trying to eat everything else. Humans evolved in that environment." A reptilian representative spoke up, his tone carrying scientific curiosity rather than fear. "We have been studying your evolutionary history. Humans are persistence predators. This is a rare strategy in the galaxy." "Correct," Lim confirmed. "Our ancestors hunted by literally running prey to death. We would track animals for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. We cannot outrun most creatures in short bursts, but we can outlast almost anything over distance. Our cooling system through sweating allows this. Our efficient energy use allows this. Our mental capacity to track and anticipate allows this." She pulled up a holographic display showing human evolutionary timeline. But persistence hunting was only one adaptation. "Look at our hands, opposable thumbs with fine motor control. We make tools. We throw objects with accuracy no other Earth species can match. Our shoulders and arms evolved specifically for throwing. We killed prey from distances other predators could not reach. Yet you were also prey," the crystalline being noted. "Your files show humans were hunted by large predators." "Absolutely. Big cats, bears, crocodiles, even other human groups. We developed complex social structures for defense. We learned to read intentions and emotions. We became experts at understanding behavior patterns because our survival depended on predicting what would kill us. Lim paused, letting that sink in. We learned to think like both predator and prey simultaneously. Ambassador Felleran looked uncomfortable. This explains their combat effectiveness but does not address our concern. Should a species this adapted for survival be allowed full integration into galactic society, their competitive nature could be dangerous. Dangerous to what? Lim asked sharply. To your assumption that physical dominance determines worth? Humans have proven that intelligence, adaptability, and determination can overcome raw strength. That should be celebrated, not feared. Easy for you to say when your species is winning, another representative muttered. The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for restrictions on human participation in combat sports or military roles. Others pointed out that excluding a species for being too effective was absurd and prejudiced. A few suggested Earth itself should be quarantined until better understanding could be reached. Throughout the debate, one question kept emerging. If humans were this effective at physical combat despite clear biological disadvantages, what did that suggest about their potential in other areas? Trade, diplomacy, warfare if it ever came to that? While the politicians argued, scientific research teams worked frantically to understand human psychology and capabilities. Dr. Ventar, a xenopsychologist, presented findings to a packed lecture hall. The key to understanding humans is their relationship with failure and pain, Ventar explained, displaying brain scan data. Most species experience pain as a signal to stop the damaging activity immediately. Human brains process pain differently. They can acknowledge it and continue anyway. They have a concept they call pushing through. It is voluntary acceptance of suffering to achieve goals. A student raised a tentacle in question. But prolonged pain damages the body. Why would evolution favor ignoring pain signals? Because sometimes continuing despite pain provided survival advantage. A human being chased by a predator might get injured but must keep running. A human hunter tracking prey for hours must ignore fatigue and discomfort. Over millions of years, this created a species with extraordinary pain tolerance and mental endurance. Ventar changed the display to show recordings of human activities. Rock climbing, marathon running, combat training. Notice how they deliberately put themselves in uncomfortable or dangerous situations for practice. They call it training, but it is really voluntary stress exposure. They are preparing their minds and bodies for worst-case scenarios. This seems psychologically unhealthy, one observer commented. By our standards, perhaps. By Earth standards, it is necessary. The humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Their entire civilization is built on this principle. They plan for disasters. They practice for emergencies. They train for fights they hope will never happen. This creates a species always ready for crisis. Another display showed human cooperation patterns. Equally important is their social structure. Humans form strong bonds with their groups. They will sacrifice themselves for family, friends, or even strangers they identify with. This creates unit cohesion that is difficult to break. In combat, this means human fighters support each other instinctively. They cover weaknesses and amplify strengths. We have observed this in the tournament, Ventar continued. The three human fighters study each other's matches and share information freely. They are competing individually, but functioning as a collective intelligence. Each victory teaches all of them. Each loss is analyzed by all of them. A military strategist in the audience stood. If humans were to organize for war, this collective learning combined with their adaptability would make them formidable opponents, despite technological or physical disadvantages. Correct, Ventar confirmed grimly. Human history shows this pattern repeatedly. They have fought wars against technologically superior forces and won through adaptation, determination, and willingness to accept casualties that would break other species' morale. They have a word for this, attrition. They can outlast opponents by simply refusing to quit. Back at the tournament, Beth Reed had advanced to the semifinals. Her upcoming opponent was a Vel warrior named Sektar, known for incredible speed and agility. Sektar had studied all of Beth's previous matches carefully and developed a strategy specifically to counter her techniques. In the preparation chamber, Beth reviewed footage with David and Aisha. David had won his matches consistently but was eliminated in the quarterfinals by a veteran fighter with superior experience. Aisha was also in the semi-finals, her relentless striking style proving effective against multiple species. Sektar will not fight like your previous opponents, David warned. He understands that engaging with you is dangerous. He will use hit-and-run tactics. Strike fast and retreat before you can counter. Then I need to cut off his escape routes, Beth said, studying the arena layout for her match. Force him to commit. Easier said than done. Vel species have reflexes 3 times faster than human standard. If you make a mistake, he will capitalize instantly. Everyone makes mistakes eventually. The question is who adapts faster when mistakes happen. Beth closed the footage display. How is Aisha's preparation going? Aisha was stretching in the corner, her expression focused and calm. My opponent is bigger and stronger but slow. Standard approach. Keep moving, break them down over time, finish when they are exhausted. Be careful of overconfidence, Beth cautioned. Every fighter here has survived multiple matches. They are dangerous. I know, but so am I. Aisha smiled slightly. We all are. In the champions' quarters, Raxel prepared for his own semi-final match against a formidable opponent from a warrior species known for brutal efficiency. But his mind was not fully focused on his immediate challenge. He was thinking about Beth Reed and what facing her would mean. He had watched every human match multiple times. He had studied Earth history files. He had analyzed human psychology reports. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. Humans were not physically superior, but they were mentally and psychologically adapted for prolonged conflict in ways the galaxy had never encountered. They would not quit. They would not break. They would adapt to whatever he did and find a counter-strategy. Fighting a human was not about landing one devastating blow. It was about winning a war of attrition where they excelled. Raxel had never faced an opponent he could not physically dominate. His advantages had always been clear. Strength, speed, regeneration, natural weapons. Against a human, these advantages would matter less than he was comfortable admitting. The question was not whether he could defeat Beth Reed. He was confident he could. The question was what cost that victory would require, and whether the cost would teach him something about himself and his species that he was not prepared to learn. The champion finished his meditation routine and stood, stretching his powerful muscles. Tomorrow he would win his semi-final match. Then if Beth Reed also won, they would face each other in the championship. He found himself hoping she would win, not because he wanted an easy opponent, but because he wanted to test himself against something truly different, something that would push him beyond his comfortable dominance. The humans had reminded the galaxy that there were different kinds of strength. Now they would prove exactly how strong those differences could be. The arena hummed with energy as the largest crowd in tournament history filled every available seat. Beings from across the galaxy had come to witness something unprecedented. A human, Beth Reed, facing the undefeated champion Raxel in the championship match. The betting pools had closed with complex odds reflecting the uncertainty everyone felt. This was not a standard match anymore. It was a test of philosophies. Strength versus adaptation. Tradition versus innovation. Beth stood in the preparation tunnel, breathing slowly and steadily. Her body ached from the semi-final match against Sektar. That fight had pushed her to her limits. The Vel warrior's speed had been incredible, landing strikes faster than she could fully react. But speed without strategy eventually created patterns. She had endured, adapted, and found the opening she needed. Sektar had yielded when she trapped him in a submission he could not escape despite his superior reflexes. Now came the real challenge. Raxel was different from every opponent she had faced. He combined strength, speed, natural weapons, and 12 cycles of championship experience. The arena would be configured to its most difficult setting: multiple levels, variable gravity zones, and environmental hazards. Nowhere to hide. Nowhere to rest. David and Aisha stood with her. Aisha had lost her semi-final match to a veteran warrior, a tactical defeat she accepted with grace. Both humans now served as Beth's corner team, though they could not assist during the actual fight. You have watched all his matches, David said quietly. What is your strategy? Survive the beginning, Beth replied honestly. Raxel will test my limits immediately. He needs to know what I can withstand. I need to survive that test without revealing all my capabilities. And then I make him fight my kind of fight. Turn it into a war of attrition. Make him work harder than he has ever worked before. Beth rolled her shoulders, feeling the tape on her ribs from a crack that had not fully healed. He is used to overwhelming opponents quickly. I need to prove I cannot be overwhelmed. The announcement system chimed. Time to enter the arena. Beth walked into the light and noise, her bare feet quiet on the metal floor. The arena was massive, with platforms at different heights connected by ramps and obstacles. Some areas glowed with markers indicating gravity shifts. Environmental hazards included steam vents, electrified barriers, and rotating platforms. It was designed to be unpredictable. Across the arena, Raxel emerged. He looked even more impressive in person than in recordings. 7 feet of pure muscle and natural weaponry. His scales gleamed like armor. His claws could tear through most materials. His presence radiated controlled violence. They met in the center platform. High Arbiter Cell stood in the protected booth, his voice echoing through the space. This championship match represents the culmination of the tournament cycle. Champion Raxel, undefeated for 12 cycles. Challenger Beth Reed of Earth, representing a newly discovered species. The rules remain standard. Victory by submission, incapacitation, or withdrawal. The match begins on my signal. May the worthy prevail. Beth and Raxel faced each other. The champion's eyes were intelligent and calculating. He was studying her just as she studied him. You have impressed many, Raxel said, his voice deep and resonant. But this is where your journey ends, human. Maybe, Beth replied calmly. Let us find out. The signal sounded. Raxel exploded forward with speed that seemed impossible for his size. He was testing her immediately, just as Beth had predicted. She evaded left, but he had anticipated that, adjusting mid-strike with his massive clawed hand. The blow caught her shoulder. Not full force, but enough to send her rolling across the platform. Pain flared. Beth used the momentum to create distance, coming up in a defensive stance. Her shoulder was already bruising. One solid hit like that could end the fight. She needed to be faster. Raxel pressed his advantage, closing distance with terrifying speed. Beth evaded again, but the platform was only so large. She used an obstacle for cover, buying herself seconds to think. Raxel circled, cutting off escape routes. He fought with intelligence, not just power. Beth feinted left, then dove right, sliding under a strike that would have crushed her ribs. She rolled to her feet near a gravity shift zone. Raxel followed, adapting instantly to the changed weight. The gravity here was higher, making movement more difficult. It affected Beth more than Raxel, whose species evolved in similar conditions. This was not working. Beth needed to change tactics. She stopped retreating and moved forward inside Raxel's reach where his strength was less effective. She struck fast and precise, targeting nerve clusters and joint connections. The blows were not powerful enough to damage his scales, but they sent signals. She was not helpless. She could hurt him if he gave her openings. Raxel adjusted, using his tail as a weapon Beth had not fully accounted for. It struck her legs, sweeping her off balance. She fell hard, and Raxel was on her instantly, trying to pin her down. His weight was incredible. Beth struggled, using every technique she knew to escape. She could not match his strength directly, so she stopped trying. Beth went limp for a half-second, making Raxel shift his weight to maintain the pin. In that moment of adjustment, she created a tiny opening and exploited it, slipping out from under him like water flowing through fingers. She was back on her feet before he could react, already moving toward the platform ramps. Raxel pursued, and the fight became mobile. They moved through the multi-level arena, using the environment as much as fighting each other. Beth used the obstacles for cover and misdirection. Raxel used his superior strength to destroy obstacles that got in his way. Minutes passed. Then more. The crowd had gone quieter, focused intensely on the match. Neither fighter was dominating. Beth was taking damage, her movements becoming slightly slower as injuries accumulated. But Raxel was breathing harder now, working more than he had in recent memory. The human would not break. Every time he thought he had her, she slipped away or countered in unexpected ways. They circled each other on a main platform, both showing signs of the fight. Beth was bleeding from a cut above her eye. Raxel had marks on his scales where she had struck repeatedly at the same spots, slowly wearing through his natural armor. You are strong, Raxel admitted, his respect evident. Stronger than you appear. You are fast, Beth replied, breathing hard. Faster than you should be for your size. They engaged again, this time more cautiously. Both fighters were learning. Beth was understanding Raxel's patterns and limits. Raxel was understanding Beth's resilience and tactical mind. The fight was evolving from a contest of attributes to a chess match with living pieces. Beth changed her strategy again. Instead of pure evasion, she started trading blows, accepting hits to land her own. This surprised Raxel. Most opponents protected themselves as much as possible. Beth was choosing damage to create opportunities. She took a strike to her ribs that cracked something, but used that moment to land a precise hit to Raxel's knee joint, the same spot she had targeted 3 times already. Raxel's knee buckled slightly. His regeneration was working but could not keep up with focused, repeated damage. Beth had found a weakness and exploited it relentlessly. They fought through the gravity zones across the platforms, using every advantage the arena offered. Time became meaningless. The match had lasted over 15 minutes now, longer than most championship fights. Both fighters were exhausted, but neither would stop. Raxel managed to grab Beth, his powerful hands locking around her torso. This was it. He could crush her now, end the fight. But something made him hesitate. Not mercy. Recognition. This human had fought with honor despite using tactics he had never encountered. She deserved a warrior's ending, not simple execution. That hesitation cost him. Beth used the moment of his grip to secure her own hold, wrapping her legs around his damaged arm and locking her arms around his neck. Not a blood choke. His anatomy was different, but a technique targeting his breathing passages. She squeezed with everything she had left, using her entire body weight and leverage. Raxel tried to throw her off, slamming himself against obstacles. Beth held on, accepting the damage, tightening her grip with each impact. Her ribs were definitely broken now. Pain screamed through her body. She ignored it. This was the moment. Either she finished it now, or she would not have strength for another opportunity. Raxel dropped to one knee, his breathing restricted. He reached back with his free arm, claws finding Beth's leg and digging in. She felt her flesh tear but did not release. Blood made her grip slippery. She adjusted, maintaining pressure. The champion had a choice. He could continue fighting and risk serious injury or unconsciousness, or he could acknowledge defeat. Raxel understood in that moment what made humans dangerous. They did not fight for dominance or glory. They fought to win, accepting any cost necessary. This female would let him tear her apart before releasing her hold. She had already decided the outcome she wanted, and would endure anything to achieve it. "I yield," Raxel said clearly, his voice strained but firm. Beth released immediately, falling away from him. Both fighters collapsed on the platform, breathing hard, bleeding, exhausted beyond measure. The crowd was silent for a long moment, shocked. Then noise exploded. Cheering, arguing, disbelief expressed in dozens of languages. High Arbiter Cell's voice cut through the noise, shaking slightly. "Victory to Beth Reed of Earth. By submission. The new champion." Medical teams rushed into the arena. Beth barely felt them working on her injuries. She looked across the platform to where Raxel was also receiving medical attention. Their eyes met. He nodded once, acknowledgement between warriors. She had won. Earth had won. But more importantly, both species had learned something neither would forget. Recovery chambers in the medical wing hummed with advanced technology, working to heal injuries that would have been fatal in less sophisticated facilities. Beth Reed lay in a treatment pod, medical scanners repairing her broken ribs, torn muscles, and internal bleeding. The process was painless but strange, feeling her body knit back together in accelerated time. Across the room in another pod, Raxel underwent similar treatment, his naturally strong regeneration enhanced by galactic medicine. Dr. Ventar supervised the medical teams, monitoring both fighters carefully. The xenopsychologist had taken personal interest in the match outcome, seeing it as confirmation of his research on human resilience and adaptation. After several hours, both pods opened. Beth sat up slowly, testing her movement. Everything worked, though she felt exhausted in ways that went beyond physical tiredness. Raxel also emerged from his treatment, moving carefully despite his healing. Their eyes met across the medical bay. Without words, they understood each other better than most beings who had known each other for years. Combat revealed truth that conversation could hide. Raxel approached Beth's pod, his movements respectful rather than aggressive. The medical staff tensed, unsure what to expect, but Beth waved them away. "You fought well," Raxel said simply. "Better than I anticipated." "You were the hardest opponent I have ever faced," Beth replied honestly. "If you had not hesitated at the end, you would have won." "Perhaps. But hesitation was not weakness. It was recognition. Raxel settled onto a bench nearby, his large frame somehow seeming less intimidating now. You would not have released your hold even if I killed you in the process. I saw that truth in your eyes. Would you have fought differently if you had known that from the beginning? Yes, but knowing and understanding are different things. I needed to experience your determination directly to believe it was real. Raxel was quiet for a moment, thinking. I have a question that has bothered me since watching your first match. Ask, does everything on your planet fight like you do? Beth actually laughed, wincing slightly as her healing ribs protested. That is the question? You want to know if all Earth creatures fight like humans? Yes. Your tactics are unlike anything in galactic combat tradition. I wish to understand if this is unique to your species or common to your world. Beth considered how to answer. Earth is diverse. Millions of species, each with different survival strategies. But yes, most life on my planet fights creatively and desperately, because evolution there demands it. She pulled out a small device, a personal datapad with information about Earth. Look, these are lions. They hunt in coordinated packs with specific roles. Some drive prey toward others who wait in ambush. Strategic thinking. Raxel leaned forward, studying the images with intense interest. These are octopi. They have no bones, can change color instantly, squeeze through tiny spaces and use tools. Problem-solving intelligence, more images. Wolves hunt in packs with complex social hierarchies and communication. Crocodiles wait motionless for hours, then explode with overwhelming force. Snakes use venom, camouflage, and stealth. Birds use flight and environmental knowledge. Even plants on Earth fight for survival, using thorns, toxins, and competitive growth strategies. Raxel's expression shifted from curiosity to something approaching concern. Your entire planet is engaged in constant warfare for survival. Not warfare, evolution, competition, adaptation. Beth scrolled through more images. Humans are not the strongest Earth species. We succeeded by being the most adaptable. We learned from every other species. We studied how lions hunted and applied those lessons. We observed how wolves cooperated and built our own societies. We saw how octopi solved problems and developed tool use. Everything on Earth teaches survival lessons if you are smart enough to learn them. This explains much, Raxel said quietly. You do not fight with one style because you evolved to use every possible advantage. Your weakness is your adaptation. Exactly. Galactic species seem to have evolved in more stable environments. You developed to specific niches and stayed there. Earth did not allow that luxury. Change or die. Adapt or go extinct. That pressure created something different. A medical technician approached nervously. Champion Reed, High Arbiter. Cell requests your presence at the awards ceremony. It begins in 1 hour. Beth nodded acknowledgement and the technician left quickly, clearly uncomfortable being near both fighters. Beth looked at Raxel. Will you attend? I must. Tradition requires the former champion to present the title to the new champion. Raxel stood, testing his movement. But I attend willingly. You earned your victory fairly. Thank you. That means something coming from you. They walked together toward the preparation areas, an unlikely pair that drew attention from everyone they passed. Word of Beth's victory had spread throughout the station. Reactions varied. Some species celebrated the upset. Others questioned whether the tournament rules needed changing. Many simply did not know how to process what had happened. David and Aisha met Beth outside the preparation chamber, both looking relieved and proud. You did it, David said, shaking his head in amazement. You actually defeated Raxel. We did it, Beth corrected. Every human match taught the galaxy about us. Built the foundation. I just finished what we started together. Aisha studied Beth carefully. How are you really feeling? That fight was brutal. Tired, sore despite the healing, but satisfied. We proved what we needed to prove, which was that Earth belongs in the galaxy. That humanity has earned its place. Beth looked at her friends seriously. This was never just about winning a tournament. It was about showing we can compete at the highest levels despite looking weak by their standards. The award ceremony took place in the Grand Hall, with representatives from dozens of species attending. High Arbiter Cell presided over the formal proceedings, his voice carrying the weight of tradition. This tournament cycle has been unprecedented in many ways, Cell began. We have witnessed the emergence of a new species whose capabilities challenge our understanding of combat and strength. Beth Reed of Earth has defeated all opponents, including our long-standing champion. This achievement must be recognized and honored. Raxel stepped forward carrying the championship medallion, a precious metal carved with symbols representing all the tournament cycles. He approached Beth with dignity, showing no bitterness or resentment. Beth Reed, you have proven yourself worthy through skill, determination, and honorable conduct. I present you with this symbol of championship, earned through your efforts and sacrifice. He placed the medallion around her neck. Wear it knowing you faced the best and prevailed. The hall erupted in applause, though some remained silent, still processing the implications of human victory. Beth accepted the medallion but did not raise it triumphantly. Instead, she spoke clearly so everyone could hear. I accept this honor on behalf of Earth and humanity, but I want to be clear about something. I did not win because humans are superior. I won because I was willing to learn, adapt, and endure. Those qualities are not unique to my species. Any being willing to push their limits and think creatively can develop them. She looked around the hall, meeting eyes of various species. Earth taught humanity that strength comes in many forms. Physical power matters, but so does mental resilience, tactical thinking, and determination. The galaxy has much to teach Earth, and perhaps Earth has something to teach the galaxy in return. I hope this tournament marks the beginning of mutual understanding, rather than the source of division. It was a diplomatic speech, carefully crafted with input from Earth's representatives. But it was also genuine. Beth meant every word. After the ceremony, she stood on an observation deck overlooking the arena floor, the space that had witnessed her battles and transformation from unknown challenger to champion. Raxel joined her after some time, standing in comfortable silence. You asked if all Earth creatures fight like humans, Beth said eventually. I want to expand that answer. Please. Life on Earth fights desperately and creatively, yes. But humans do something more. We learn from every other species. We cooperate beyond our immediate groups. We build on knowledge across generations. That is our real advantage. Not individual strength, but collective intelligence and accumulated wisdom. This makes humanity even more formidable than I realized, Raxel observed. Or more valuable as allies, Beth countered. We do not need to be threats to each other. Earth has much to learn from galactic civilization. Technology, medicine, philosophy, art from thousands of worlds. But we also bring perspectives shaped by our unique evolution, different approaches to problems, alternative strategies, hybrid thinking. Raxel considered this. You speak of cooperation, yet you defeated me in individual combat. Individual combat was necessary to earn respect in your cultural framework, but ultimate success for humanity will come from cooperation, not domination. We have learned that lesson painfully throughout our history. Beth turned to face him directly. I would rather have you as a friend and training partner than as an enemy, Raxel. The former champion was quiet, processing this offer. Finally, he nodded slowly. I would like that as well. You have taught me that strength has dimensions I did not fully appreciate. I wish to understand more about Earth and human philosophy. And I want to understand Torgathi culture and combat tradition better. We can learn from each other. They shook hands, human custom that Raxel understood instinctively as symbolic gesture of mutual respect and alliance. Over the following weeks, changes rippled through the galactic community. Earth's status shifted from curiosity to serious consideration for various partnerships and treaties. Species that had dismissed humanity began reassessing their positions. The tournament had served its purpose, proving that humans could compete and contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization. Beth remained at the Colosseum temporarily, defending her title against new challengers while also conducting training sessions that mixed human and alien martial arts. Raxel participated in these sessions, creating a hybrid fighting system that combined Torgathi strength with human adaptability. Dr. Lim's research gained wider acceptance, and other scientists began studying Earth's ecosystem more seriously, recognizing it as a unique evolutionary laboratory that produced perspectives the galaxy lacked. Not everyone accepted human integration easily. Some species remained suspicious or resentful. But the foundation had been laid. Earth had proven itself through the universal language of combat and skill. One evening, Beth sat with David, Aisha, and several alien fighters who had become friends through mutual respect. They shared stories about their home worlds, comparing evolutionary pressures and survival strategies. Laughter and conversation flowed easily. barriers of species difference breaking down through common experience. Raxel arrived late, joining the group naturally. He had brought fermented beverage from his home world, sharing it as gesture of friendship. Beth tried it, finding the taste strange but not unpleasant. To new alliances, Raxel offered as a toast. To mutual understanding, Beth countered. To survival and adaptation, Aisha added. To Earth and the galaxy learning from each other, David finished. They drank together, warriors from different worlds united by respect earned through combat and confirmed through friendship. The future remained uncertain, full of challenges and opportunities neither humans nor galactic species fully understood yet. But for the first time, they would face that future together, combining Earth's desperate creativity with the galaxy's accumulated wisdom, different types of strength supporting each other, different perspectives creating better solutions. And somewhere on Earth, billions of humans looked up at the stars knowing their place among them had been secured not through superiority but through the same qualities that had carried their species through millions of years of evolution: the ability to adapt, the refusal to quit, the wisdom to learn from everyone and everything around them. These were Earth's gifts to the galaxy, and in time both would be stronger for sharing them.